We are now almost 2 weeks out from when all people ceased to get their extra $600 per week in unemployment benefits. And so we're basically headed into the last pay period where I think it's possible for anybody to have, or I should say the first pay period where people will not be getting that. Donald Trump announced Saturday at Bedminster, or Friday he announced it. I think Saturday he supposedly signed these executive orders. We will go through those, but I mentioned them yesterday. Needless to say, they are horribly insufficient. And in fact, in some instances, may be completely a mirage. We will talk about that. But what's interesting is what's happening on Capitol Hill right now. Yesterday, the Democrats in the House basically said they're not coming back for any votes until mid-September. They're on recess. They had passed the HEROES Act. I don't know. What was that, like 6 weeks ago? The HEROES Act was their COVID relief bill. Some things in it were horrible. Some things were crucial. And they have decided to leave. There is some question as to whether Nancy Pelosi would come back if there was another bill passed by the Senate. But the Senate cannot pass a bill right now because Mitch McConnell, he's good at stopping stuff, not so great at cobbling together anything. You've got Ron Johnson out in Wisconsin saying, I'm glad. I hope we don't pass anything. He's one of the stupidest senators we have, incidentally. He said on a Friday interview with Breitbart News Tonight, I think I just proved my that statement, that he hopes negotiations stay broken down between the Trump administration and House Democratic leaders on a new pandemic relief package, given the trillions Democratic leader proposed in new spending. From my standpoint, the breakdown in the talks is very good news. It's very good news for future generations. I hope the talks remain broken down. Future generations are going to applaud the fact that we allowed millions of people to go hungry, millions of people to be evicted, millions of people to lose their health insurance, millions of cities and towns to cut services, to cut education, make it harder for kids to go back to school. Future generations are going to really appreciate this, is what Ron Johnson believes. And so here's Mitch McConnell complaining that what he's really saying is, I can't get anything passed in the Senate. He needs Democratic votes now.
Republicans wanted to agree on the things we could agree to. Democrats said, our way or the highway. Republicans wanted to send cash now, right now, for schools, testing, and unemployment benefits, and argue over state bailouts later. Democrats said nobody gets a penny unless Texas and Florida bail out New Jersey. That's their position. Nobody gets a penny unless Texas and Florida bail out New Jersey. So this is where we are. The previous UI benefits expired. The PPP closed its doors. Over the weekend, President Trump took steps to soften the blow of the Democrats' hostage tactics on American families who need help most. His decisions will help spare some Americans some of the pain from the Democrats' hostage taking. From the beginning, from the very beginning, Mr. President, our side has tried everything possible to find common ground and deliver more help. But the Democrats have said no. At least the American people know the score. So. At least they know the score.
Okay, so Mitch McConnell's out there. There's an argument, I guess, that if Nancy Pelosi was still in Washington, she could rebut that. But I also we're living in an era where I just don't think that anybody, the mainstream media, is not buying that. 15 years ago, they would have lapped that up and they would have said Democrats are being obstructionist. Now, there's still, the fact is Democrats have passed a bill. Like, we've gone over the HEROES Act many times before. There's a lot of really bad stuff in there, like extending COBRA. But there's also a lot of important stuff, like literally hundreds of billions for cities and states, among other things. It's a $3 trillion bill. Mitch McConnell cannot pass anything in the Senate. And unless Donald Trump and the Trump administration says you got to pass this. And there's been an interesting sort of dynamic that's been going on here. You remember Mark Meadows. He is the Freedom Caucus former congressman. Sometimes people get him confused with who is the Jim Jordan, the wrestling coach who refused to do anything about the multiple students who came up to him and said, "We're being molested by the trainer." I guess because, they were having a good season. I don't know. But sometimes I get those two confused. Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan. Maybe both their names are alliterative and they're both Freedom Caucus guys. So Mark Meadows is not the former wrestling coach who did nothing about the sexual predator working amongst the students. However, he's also still not a terribly good person who has this attitude of, I would rather see people suffer than expend tax dollars to help them, I guess is basically what it comes down to. So Pelosi and Meadows have gone back and forth. Like literally in these meetings, they've been gotten in fight over stuff about you can't bring a phone in here and that type of stuff. Meadows, apparently, he's the chief of staff for Trump. Apparently, he is showing up at these meetings to babysit Steve Mnuchin. It's not just because Mnuchin is not very bright, because I don't know that Meadows is particularly bright either. But a big part about it is that Mnuchin just wants to make a deal. He doesn't care at the end of the day about inflicting that much pain on the little people if it helps Donald Trump. And so Mnuchin is the only one that they can deal with. But Meadows has been there to essentially be a roadblock. Well, Politico is reporting this morning that Meadows is gone from the White House for a week. Is that what it said, Brendan?
Yep, that's exactly it.
And there is no explanation. We don't know if it's because he got COVID. We don't know if it's because Mnuchin came back and said to Trump, like, I can't make a deal with him in the room and we're going to get screwed. No deal soon. MM. Who's MM? Oh, Mark Meadows. Spoke with a couple of senior administration.
I think that's Morning Money.
Oh, Morning Money. Okay. So Morning Money spoke with a couple of senior administration officials who both said that they see little chance of a fiscal stimulus deal coming anytime soon. There are not likely to be any serious talks this week, partly because the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, is out for the week, but mostly because the administration feels confident they have the upper hand politically following Donald Trump's executive actions. Now, that could be the case, or it could also be the case that they've got Meadows out of the way so they can actually make a deal with Pelosi. Because I don't know, if Donald Trump was so confident about where he was on this, he wouldn't be talking about how Pelosi and Schumer were contacting him over the weekend when they weren't. So who knows? But Donald Trump's, maybe Donald Trump thinks that from a political standpoint, there's no pressure. But the reality is that none of this money that they're talking about in his executive orders are going to reach people. Reminder, he's delaying. He has the ability in the declaration of a federal emergency like coronavirus to tell the Treasury to postpone collecting taxes, right? I mean, our tax deadline was not April 15th this year. It was July, whatever it was, 15th. So they can say to the Treasury, do not collect these payroll taxes. But as I explained yesterday, if I'm an employer and I'm supposed to withhold 6.2% of Brendan's paycheck, I'm going to have to pay that. I'm going to have to pull that out of his paycheck in 6 months. And so I'm going to be pulling out, 36, 42% of his paycheck in December. And Brendan's not going to like that. And so I may just say to Brendan, look, here's the deal. I'm going to put that money. You're not getting that money. I'm putting it in escrow because you're going to owe it later. And if you don't like it, take a walk. But that's what I'm doing. It's conceivable I'll just have the option. But even if I didn't have the option, I might still do it. Try and get away with it for a while. And then if Brendan says, hey, Sam, what are you doing? And I'll be like, Brendan, look, let's be honest. I know you. Well, this doesn't work so well with Brendan. But you're not going to save that money to pay it later. You're going to go and spend it on all your, fancy clothes and, parties. And so many people will not even see that deferral of taxes to the extent that it's worth anything anyways. What good? It's basically it's a no-cost loan, but not enough money that you can go out and buy something that's going to accrue in value. No, it's just a low-cost loan so you can go out and maybe help you with your rent a little bit, but we're not talking about much money here at all. And then they have sort of extended the federal unemployment aid to $400, except for only $300 of that is coming from Washington. The other 100 supposedly coming from the state. The states have no mechanism in which to issue stuff like that. They have no extra money. So many of the states won't issue that extra money. And the $300 is supposed to be siphoned out of the DHS account. And it's unclear that he has the legal right to do that. It's disaster relief money. And then there is an option for some agencies to halt some evictions. And if I had to guess, I would say unlikely that's happening. And then the only thing that's even worth anything, I think, is that student loan payments are deferred until December 31st. But the debt is not canceled forever. And I don't know how the interest accrues over that time. But this is not going to minimize the pressure, if that's what they're thinking. Because people are going to be starting to hurt soon. Now, Mnuchin said the other day that they'd be able to turn around this unemployment stuff, by Monday. Now he's singing a slightly different tune. Well, it's going to take a little while. This is going to be a real problem for people. And I think Trump is going to feel the pressure. We'll see.